Number 10, Thor's eye. Taika Waititi arguably saved Thor. He gave the character a complete makeover. He made an extremely fun sequel and the stakes were still extremely high. There are some major MCU moments in this film. Hela breaking Thor's hammer with her hand, Thor getting a haircut, Asgard is now gone, Odin also gone. It's a lot. Now near the end of the film, Hela takes Thor's eye out as well. It's a huge moment for him because while he's getting his handed to him by his evil sister, he has these visions with his father Odin, and they bond in these visions. Thor explodes, he saves the day with a handle on his new lightning ability, and the last shot of the movie is Thor sitting on the throne with his eye patch. And he looks just like Odin. It's a beautiful look. And then come Infinity War, he slaps in a new eye, and the iconic eye patch was just gone that fast. Now, in the Art of Avengers Endgame book, there's concept art of Thor still with the eye patch. So they were close, but maybe it was better for Thor's redemption to be entirely his own come Endgame. I like the eye patch, honestly. It gives me like Kurt Russell, Captain Ron vibes. And before we continue on with this list, guys, if you want to go ahead and give us a thumbs up on this video, those likes add up and it really does help us working from home and in studio. You guys are the best. Thank you so much. Now let's get right back to this list of weird MCU moments.
Coming in at number 9, we have Thor Has No Hammer. Thor Ragnarok was the movie that really nailed it. Thor Ragnarok was the movie that really nailed Thor. They found a way to give the character so much more personality. The comedic shift to Thor really made Ragnarok one of the best movies in the MCU. Now, right at the start of the movie, Thor and Loki get into a scrap with Hera, the goddess of death, who is also their sister, and Hera, without blinking an eye, explodes Thor's hammer into a million pieces. When I saw this movie, I was very shocked by this turn of events because the hammer is such an iconic piece of Thor. Now, this left him without the ability to use his thunder powers, but he eventually learned that the hammer was just a tool for the real power that was inside him all along. A very classic movie trope. In one movie, we see Thor do a full circle and get his groove back.
Number 8, Spider-Man Homecoming. One of my favorite Spider-Man movies of all time is Spider-Man Homecoming. It's pretty close to Spider-Man 2, Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man 2. They're both so different, but they're both so good. Now, when Spider-Man Homecoming takes place, well, that's a bit confusing. See, there's a flashback to the events of 2012's Avengers at the beginning of Spider-Man Homecoming, and then it says 8 years later, and boom, the movie starts. So that means Homecoming takes place in 2020. Although the film also tells us that Homecoming takes place a few months after Civil War, which happened in 2016. So in an interview with Infinity War co-director Joe Russo, when asked about the time gap between Avengers and Homecoming, he said it was 8 years, I believe. A very incorrect 8 years. And I thought the timelines in Endgame were confusing. God, my brain already hurts. Number 7, The Mandarin. Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings is directed by Destin Daniel Cretton and screenplay written by David Callahan. It stars Simu Liu, who you recognize from CBC's Kim Convenience, as Marvel's first Asian superhero. Now, everything in that first trailer looks amazing. The fight choreography, so good. And the villain is set to be the Mandarin. The actual Mandarin this time around. The Mandarin made his first appearance in Tales of Suspense issue 50. He wields 10 magical rings, each controlling a unique force. Now, the 10 rings aren't just physical items as well. No, it's the name of the evil organization that was working alongside Obadiah Stane back in Iron Man 1. They were the ones who actually held Stark captive in that cave. You could actually see their logo in the background, and you briefly see it again in Ant-Man as well, in the form of a neck tattoo. So they're still in the MCU, it's still a thing. So while we're super excited about the real Mandarin villain coming to life, we sadly have to reflect on the waste that was Ben Kingsley in Iron Man 3, when he played the Mandarin, well, the fake Mandarin. Marvel and their fake characters, oh boy. He was in fact not the supervillain Mandarin, rather his name was Trevor, and he liked crushing beers and watching sports. Number 6, Black Widow and Bruce Banner's relationship. Remember in Age of Ultron when Black Widow was the key to calming down Bruce Banner? They were in love, right? I think. I mean, they were flirting at the beginning, and then even Steve Rogers was like, hey, you're not breaking any bylaws, have at it. And then at Clint's secret family farmhouse, they're talking about running away together. And then after all this time in Age of Ultron, Bruce returns to Earth, he says hi to Nat in Infinity War, and then she says hi back, and that's kind of it. Well, according to the Infinity War co-screenwriter Stephen McFeely, he said they certainly wanted to do more. There was a clear romance that was left behind. In an interview with IndieWire, the director said, we have scenes, we wrote them, we shot them, of them sort of hashing it out. You've been gone, I've moved on, that kind of stuff, blah, blah, blah. It became very clear that if a scene was not on the A plot, it would not survive Infinity War. That thing has to be on rails just to get to the finish line. I mean, sure, that's fair, that's totally fair, but I feel like if it wasn't going anywhere to begin with, it didn't have to be there. Besides, we have Betty Ross in the MCU as well. She still exists. The pesky Incredible Hulk plot coming back to haunt us years later. Number 5, the Leader. Another huge villain teased in the MCU, but you may have forgotten about this one. Samuel Stearns, played by Tim Blake Nelson, was teased to become the villain at the end of that Incredible Hulk film. He got his hands on some of Bruce Gamma radiated blood, and when it was injected, his head started to become bigger. So what was this all about? Where was this going? Why was his head growing and looking weird? So Sam made his first debut in Tales to Astonish issue 62. He was working one night at a chemical research plant, and when he was moving canisters of waste material, one of the containers broke open and covered him in gamma radiation. He went from being smart to becoming a super genius. His brain could absorb more and more information. It got to a point where his physical body, of course, started to mutate. So now he has this giant green brain head. And he started to refer to himself as the Leader, using his intellect to become a criminal mastermind. He clashed with Banner numerous times in comics. In fact, he actually ruined Betty and Bruce's wedding at one point. The Red Leader also joined the Thunderbolts in Volume 2, Issue 6. So maybe he'll return when those guys finally come together on the big screen. I mean, it looks like it's happening right now with Zemo and Ross at the end of Falcon and the Winter Soldier. So maybe he's coming back. But as of right now, who knows? Number 4, Cap's love life. Since the first Captain America film, Steve has been head over heels for Peggy Carter. They talk about finding a dance partner. The pacing is done really well. There's a genuine romance building between the two. So when Steve puts the plane down in the water later on in that film and sacrifices his life, the last thing he thinks about is Peggy. It's super nice, it's thoughtful. And then comes Civil War, we have Steve just making out with her niece, Sharon Carter, in the airport. It didn't come out of nowhere. I mean, she was in the Winter Soldier sequel, but still, it's a bit weird for me. But what makes this PDA in the airport more forgettable is the fact that Sharon is basically a villain now as of the end of Falcon and the Winter Soldier. We see in Falcon and the Winter Soldier, after the snap, she was just abandoned. She was part of a deal that if she helped take down the Flag Smashers, then her dark days as a crime boss would just be pardoned during that dark snapping time. Then a post-credit scene in Falcon and the Winter Soldier shows us this pardon, and then immediately she makes a call trying to line up buyers for secret government tech. Cap sure knows how to pick them. Damn. Number 4, Adam Warlock. In one of the many after credit scenes in Guardians of the Galaxy 2, we get a hint at Adam Warlock being introduced into the MCU. He's a perfect sovereign created by Aisha to likely be used against the Guardians of the Galaxy in their next adventure. Now in the comics, Adam was created by the Enclave, a group of scientists who just wanted to create the perfect being. Makes sense why Zac Efron was rumored to play that part, okay? He's even referred to as just that in the short after credit clip. More powerful, more beautiful, and more than capable of destroying the Guardians of the Galaxy. Now in Thor the Dark World, Eric Selvig wrote the Vault on a chalkboard among his notes on the Convergence. And in the comics, the Vault was a tear in space that was sealed by Adam Warlock. So the after credit scene in Thor the Dark World also gave us a much closer look at Adam initially. So in the after credit scene, Thor and Lady Sif visit the Collector to hand over the Reality Stone. And then in a glass case, we see a cocoon that looks just like Adam Warlock's cocoon. Guardians of the Galaxy director James Gunn admitted years later that he made a mistake putting that in, because at the time, he just wanted to put fun stuff in the Collector's museum. He didn't know how serious people were gonna take the Easter eggs. Oh, buddy, you have no idea. Number 2, Pym Particles. The Time Heist is a treat for MCU fans. We get to revisit fun moments in past films, even movies that fans didn't like that much, like Thor the Dark World. We still got to go back and have some fun with that as well. Tony sees his dad and he has a heart-to-heart. Cap fights Cap and says Hail Hydra. It's awesome. The fans went nuts. It was a great time. Each member is given a Pym particle for said heist. They make it known that this is a factor, that they're low on Pym particles. The reason Cap and Tony have to go back even further during the heist is to get more particles. Yet before they do so, in the Avengers Tower, Scott is shrunken down. Right when Hydra comes in to take the staff, he's already small. That's when he talks about Cap's butt. They make it clear that Scott accidentally used one of these trips in the lab prior to the heist. So when Steve and Tony go back, Steve grabs extras, which explains the final battle. But how is Ant-Man able to shrink at the start of the New York heist when they were so low on Pym particles? And finally, number 1, the Bifrost Bridge. The climax of the first Thor movie was Thor making the ultimate decision to destroy the Bifrost Bridge. It's a huge moment. This means he won't see the love of his life again, and he saved Jotunheim from Loki, which is great. That's the main goal here. Now, when Thor returns on Earth in the Avengers, it's explained that this happens because Odin used dark energy. And at the end of Avengers, they used the Space Stone in order to go back. So far, this is making sense. But in Thor the Dark World, that bridge is just fixed. It's back to normal, and we didn't really get an explanation. Or did we? In a tie-in comic, Thor the Dark World Prelude, written by Craig Kyle and Christopher Yost, It shows just exactly how they fixed it. This comic showed Thor using the Tesseract to let the fires of Bifrost burn once more. And voila, Thor the Dark World now makes sense again. Although we didn't see it on screen, we do have a slight explanation, so we'll take it. Number 10, Gamora's origins. Gamora is a character whose past is a little confusing in the MCU, and now with her sort of back with the Guardians of the Galaxy post-Endgame, I'm pretty sure it's about to get a little more weird. In the first Guardians movie, Gamora explains her childhood. It's brutal. She says that when Thanos took over her homeworld, he actually killed her parents in front of her, and then he tortured her and then turned her into a weapon. Even John C. Reilly, the Nova Corpsman, was like, yeah, Gamora is the last of her species. But come Infinity War, the flashback is much different than we thought. We see her childhood and we see her get taken by Thanos, but half the population survived, because by the time we get to Infinity War, that's his clear motive, wiping out half the planet's life. Now the children born then have known nothing but full bellies and clear skies. Apparently, it's a paradise. So her origins are still a little confusing. Does she have anyone left? So are they alive and hanging out by the beach sipping cocktails, or is she really the only last of them? Who knows? Number 9, Tony and Pepper split. One of my favorite MCU films is Civil War. It felt dark. The Avengers were facing all these consequences after hucking cars around. It was a huge arc for Steve and Tony, especially right off the bat when Tony's giving a speech to some students, and then all of a sudden the Pepper Potts line comes up and Tony freezes. He wraps up the speech and he walks off stage, almost shell-shocked. So at this point it's official, Tony and Pepper are no longer together. Tony walks off stage all distracted because he carried some weight from Ultron into this movie. He made it felt very real. He didn't stop making suits because he didn't want to stop. Pepper's like, well, you chose, peace. And then Spider-Man Homecoming comes rolling around and Pepper Potts comes from out of nowhere, all lovey-dovey, and they're back together. They're waiting for Spider-Man to announce his new Avenger status. It's like a big moment. It's almost like they haven't even been split up. In fact, it seems that they're better than ever because Tony pulls out a ring and just casually proposes to Pepper. What if Spider-Man did decide that he wanted to come out as an Avenger that day? When would Tony have proposed instead? Can we see that scene? It sounds pretty lovely. And before we continue on with this list, guys, if you want to go ahead and give this video a thumbs up, that would be awesome. It really does help us out a lot, especially while we're working from home. You guys are the best. Thank you so much for your support. Now let's get right back into this MCU list. Number 8, 2 Ant-Mans. The final act of Avengers Endgame is an absolute roller coaster of emotions. Once Hulk snaps the world back, all of our heroes reunite, Cap says Avengers assemble, and it's just a great time after that. Right off the bat, we get a super long one take bouncing from one character to another, an Avengers tradition at this point. And while these fight scenes are quite the spectacle, it's sometimes hard to keep track of where everybody is. And this goes for the people making the movies as well, it seems. Especially Ant-Man. Even when he's giant, he's still hard to track down. At the 2-hour and 23 mark, Black Panther is running with the gauntlet through the battlefield, and in the background, we see Giant Man pushing a Chitauri Leviathan back through a portal. Pretty awesome. Only a minute earlier though, we just saw Scott Lang in normal size hotwiring the quantum tunnel van, a process that would have taken him 10 minutes to do so, says Scott. There's been a theory that maybe it was Lewis and he came back and then took a suit and then got giant and helped out, but I think that's just fans trying to cover up Marvel's blunder here. It's a massive scene. I mean, I didn't notice it the first few times I watched it, so hey, keep it up, you're fooling us. Number 7, Capitol Hill. A lot of people give Iron Man 2 a hard time, and while sure it's not the best superhero sequel, it had its moments, it had fun moments. A great moment when it comes to character development for Tony was when he was called to testify before the United States Senate Armed Services Committee. So Senator Stern demanded that Stark handed over his armor tech for military use. Tony then responds in a powerful way. He says that his suit and him are the same concept, and to give it over would be to turn himself over, which is not gonna happen. He is Iron Man. Plus, this is the same scene where we're introduced to Don Cheadle as the new Rhodey. It's a pretty big Marvel moment that takes place on Capitol Hill, except Capital is spelt incorrectly. I mean, hey, the YouTubers were probably too excited to upload the footage, and spelling mistakes happen all the time, even in a $200 million movie. Mistakes still happen. Number 6, Nick Fury's eye. Nick Fury has been there from the beginning of the MCU. Since that first Iron Man after credit scene, fans have been happy to see him reappear, even if it's just for a quick chat at a donut shop. His look is memorable too. I mean, for one, he's Samuel L. Jackson, so you're not really gonna forget him. And two, it's the eye patch. It's his character. He's so unique. Seeing him without one in Captain Marvel was almost weird. Fortunately, we got to see the origin to the eye patch, which was being teased since Captain America and the Winter Soldier. In that film, he said, "Last time I trusted somebody, I lost an eye. So, come Captain Marvel, It's time for some answers, here we go. His eye then was scratched out from Goose, our furry alien friend. Yeah, it left a scratch that eventually blinded him, yet in Captain America the Winter Soldier, there's a photo showing a Fury being sworn in as SHIELD director, with both eyes looking quite normal. Number 5. Doctor Strange. One of the best parts of the MCU is how much they like to tease their upcoming stuff. It gets you excited. I mean, the after credit scenes are so common now that if you leave during the credits on opening night, you're just gonna have like 200 people yelling at you through their Iron Man masks. They're gonna be hucking popcorn at you. You're gonna be the laughingstock. Now, some of these nods can be a little confusing though, considering the timeline when you look at it in the grand scheme of things. Like in Captain America, the Winter Soldier, again, Jasper Sitwell explains Project Insight and how it keeps an eye on these powerful individuals, like these threats. He mentions Bruce Banner, the Hulk, and Stephen Strange. It's a cool moment that tells us that Doctor Strange is indeed in the MCU. It's fun. I remember the theaters, there was a little buzz going around as soon as he said it. It's cool. But right before Strange even gets into that car accident that makes him become the powerful Doctor Strange, he gets a call about Rhodey when he fell during the airport battle in Civil War. Now, it's not confirmed, but it sure does sound a lot like Rhodey and his conditions. Listing Strange was a cool shout out, but I don't think Zola's algorithm knew enough about him to be considered a threat. Yet. Number 4, nanotechnology. Tony Stark's tech has gotten so much better over these years. I mean, even the suitcase suit back in Iron Man 2, like my jaw dropped the first time I saw it. I was like, how is this possible? This is insane. And then come Iron Man 3, Tony's suit is absolute trash. It gets him in all this trouble. It's a prototype suit, and that's the one that he chooses to wear after threatening the Mandarin. Weird flex, but okay, sure, we'll go with it. Also, Iron Man 3 wasn't a bad movie at all. It was fine. Doesn't make sense in the timeline really, but it's fine, it's fine. But come Infinity War, all Tony needs to suit up now is his arc reactor. It just houses nanotechs that form around his body. It's awesome. So he goes from wearing a jumpsuit to being fully protected in a split second. How neat. But a shot in Infinity War could mean that his jacket is made of nanotech as well. Either that or it's a continuity mistake. Either that or it's a filming error. Tony's jacket goes from resting comfortably over his shoulders to, well, who knows? Maybe Happy took it in that weird deleted scene where he rolls up in a golf cart. I'm glad they didn't keep that one. That was weird. Number 3, Cap's shield. Peter Parker is quite brilliant. So when he calls out Cap's shield and says that it doesn't obey the laws of physics at all, the kid's probably onto something. In the first Captain America, Peggy describes the properties of the vibranium shield. It's completely vibration absorbent. This is proven when Peggy then shoots at the shield numerous times and the bullets just fall to the ground, while the shield remains intact. Lovely, what a lovely piece of weaponry. And then in Captain America, the Winter Soldier, the shield reflects the bullets back at the enemies. Both great scenes, but confusing logic for the shield. But perhaps one of the most confusing moments is in Avengers Endgame, where Thanos has just ripped Cap's shield to pieces with his sword. It was a big, oh my god moment because we were told up until this point that the shield was basically unbreakable. This made us really look at Thanos and get afraid. We're like, oh, he just ripped apart his shield. Cap's for sure gonna die, he's done. But then once the Avengers reunite in a quick overhead shot, we can see Cap's shield in the background, and it looks to be in much better shape than moments earlier. This act was probably a nightmare to film and edit, so we're gonna forgive them when it comes to this shot. But Strange still having the Eye of Agamotto, that one we could talk about a little bit.
Coming in at number 2, we have Iron Man gets his core pulled out. Going back to the movie that started it all. This was just a dream way back when, and then it all came together so perfectly thanks to the amazing minds working on the MCU. And when it started, there was Tony Stark in a cave with a bunch of scrap, building an arc reactor to insert into his own chest to stop shrapnel from slicing into his heart. Man, you really have to trust yourself. I get nervous when I gotta pull an eyelash out of my eye. If you guys remember this movie, you'll know that Tony Stark was a prisoner of war, and once he was rescued, he builds a new arc reactor to insert into his chest that wasn't made out of spare parts so he doesn't die. And just when you think things are moving smoothly, he gets double crossed by Jeff Bridges, who removes the new arc reactor from his chest and leaves him there to die. But Tony won't go down without a fight, and he puts the old janky reactor back into his chest, jumps into an Iron Man suit to save the day with the limited energy that the simplistic reactor provides. Does he do it? Well, he's in like 10 movies after that, so you can guess that everything worked out.
Number 1, more Pym particles. And we're back to more Pym particles because a lot of these things don't make sense sometimes. In the first Ant-Man film, we hear numerous times the science behind the Pym particles. Because if you're gonna watch these amazing fight scenes, you have to at least understand the science behind them. So it's told to audiences twice that Pym particles shrink the space between atoms and not the atoms themselves. The weight doesn't change. So when Ant-Man is standing on Tony's shoulder complimenting Steve on his American glutes, he's probably the same weight. One of the most confusing Pym particle problems that we faced was actually in the first Ant-Man film, when it's revealed that Hank Pym's keyring is actually a functional tank. Old Tank Pym. So either Michael Douglas is just jacked and he's got these super strong hips, or the Pym particles and the weight, they just change it when they need to for the plot. Because these movies are far-fetched and it's fine, and we'll forgive these mistakes because most of the time these movies are just a load of fun.
Coming in at number 10, we have Old Man Cap. Keeping the timelines the same was a very important part of Avengers Endgame. You can't mess around with time too hard or everything is going to get screwed up and the universes will collapse and everyone will die. Well, they did a pretty good job at this, except for the part where Captain America decides that he won't come back to present day and instead spends all of his time alive with the love of his life, which is probably the most wholesome way that you can end the Captain America story. And honestly, I loved it. But I think it's pretty safe to say that the old man version of Cap will not be getting into a fistfight with George St. Pierre anytime soon. He got nerfed so hard. He gave up his shield to Falcon, and now he is no longer Captain America. But the century-old Captain America could probably still beat me in an arm wrestle any day.
Number 9, Edward Norton. Now, of course, we have to mention recast, especially when it's this big. Whenever people talk about rewatching the Marvel Cinematic Universe, you know, to refresh yourself before the next movie or the next show, there's always the question, do we skip the Hulk? I mean, chronologically, it fits in right after Iron Man 1, and William Hurt plays the same character. He plays General Ross, and he's still playing General Ross in the current MCU. But now the Hulk is completely different. Marvel decided not to bring back Edward Norton, not because of money, like some other people that I'm not even gonna mention on this list, but because they needed an actor who embodies the creativity and collaborative spirit of the other talented cast members. So Edward Norton's team did respond, saying it was indeed about money, but this isn't the first time Edward Norton's been on the naughty list.
Coming in at number 8, we have Thor Has No Hammer again. I thought these 2 points would be perfect to do back to back. Well, we all remember the first Thor movie. I'm sure a lot of you out there wish that you didn't remember the first Thor movie, but we've come so far and now the Thor movies are great. But in the very first appearance of Thor in the MCU, we have Thor get into a fight with Odin about breaking some dumb rules. Like, so what if Thor went into Jotunheim and started a conflict with the ice giants that could turn into an all-out war between Asgardians and giants that could lead to the deaths of billions? No biggie. Well, actually, huge biggie. So Odin takes Thor's hammer and then throws him down to Earth with no powers. So half the movie, the God of Thunder is shocked by his environment and has no special powers, like a frat kid at a Mensa party. Coming in at number 7, we have Vision Gets Stabbed. Comic fans know that Vision is an extremely powerful superhero. I mean, he has an Infinity Stone in his head. That's got to give you a pretty high IQ. Now, we have seen Vision do some amazing things, like shutting down Ultron's neural network and picking up Thor's hammer. And because the hero is such a powerful force, I think the writers of Avengers Infinity War wanted to take him down a little bit so he couldn't be that powerful. Now, they do this by having one of the members of the Black Order, Corvus Glaive, stab him with his extremely powerful, well, glaive. I wonder how the dude got the name. Now, his glaive has a list of abilities. It can cut through any known being in the universe. It can prevent him from being destroyed if he's holding it, and he can recall it at any time. So when Corvus slices into Vision, it distorts his ability to phase and heal, leaving him in a weakened state. Coming in at number 6, we have Spider-Man without his suit. Spider-Man Far From Home was the Spider-Man movie we were all waiting for. It really embodied what we love about the comics, and a big part of that is the relationship that he has with Tony Stark. Now, Stark gives him a suit to help maximize the use of his powers. Throughout the movie, Parker's learning his new skills, hacking into the suit and unlocking the full potential, and getting buddy-buddy with the artificial intelligence that is programmed to instruct him on how everything works. And then right when it seems like Spidey has gotten control, when he's moving out of the friendly neighborhood Spider-Man role into the web-slinging hero of New York, Tony Stark comes in and takes the suit away. Mind you, Spider-Man did cause a catastrophe that almost left a ton of people injured, but we were so close. This forces Spider-Man to do his final encounter with the big bad Vulture with his homemade rags, once again proving that the abilities are inside you, not in the tools. I'm starting to see a little bit of a theme here. Coming at number 5, we have Doctor Strange doesn't use the Time Stone. In Avengers Infinity War, the Avengers actually have 2 of the stones in their possession for most of the movie, and they don't use them. Now, this might seem like a massive plot hole, but it's actually very justified. I mean, one stone is in Vision's head and they want to stop him from being ripped apart by Thanos, so they opt to remove it, and the other stone, which Doctor Strange has, never gets used because the Doctor knew that Thanos would be too powerful and he would basically just take the stone away from him. so he thought hiding it would be the better option, even though he used the stone to defeat a god in the previous Doctor Strange movie when he locks Dormammu in a time loop. Now you could argue that he did use the stone when he looked through the different timelines, but I'm putting it on the list because he didn't use it in the actual fight. Coming in at number 4, we have Fat Thor. Honestly, an amazing choice for Avengers Endgame. Fat Thor was funny and addressed the fact that some of these heroes would be suffering from PTSD due to their massive loss. Thor was clearly battling with a very harsh case of depression, which made a movie packed with superheroes feel so much more real. But even if his physical abilities aren't explicitly said to be weaker, there's no way that Fat Thor has as good cardio as Fit Thor. Also, he's definitely in a weakened emotional state. Coming in at number 3, we have Hulk Won't Get Angry. Avengers Infinity War starts with the display of Thanos' power, so the whole movie there is no question as to how powerful the Mad Titan is. He lays a beat down on Hulk that leaves him nerfed for the whole movie. Hulk refuses to come out of Banner and fight again because the first time he lost so hard and he doesn't want to get his head kicked in a second time.
Number 2, the Gauntlets. In Infinity War, Eitri is forced to make the gauntlet for Thanos on Nidavellir, the same place that Thor gets Stormbreaker and makes it just in time to join the battle in Wakanda, which would be on a list of best MCU moments for sure. But we did see an Infinity Gauntlet before this movie, a couple times actually. In the first Thor film, it was seen in Odin's vault. Now come Thor Ragnarok, they fixed this with a simple shot. Hela walked by and said, "Fake," as she tipped it over. Cool. All the fans were like, okay, we understand that one, we're cool, we're on board. But a post-credit scene in Avengers Age of Ultron really got fans excited, and for no reason at all, it seems. The after-credit scene shows Thanos putting on a gauntlet saying he'll do it himself. Now, it's actually a really crazy after-credit scene. I remember the theater went kind of nuts. Infinity War screenwriters insisted that this is just a practice gauntlet, which is fair. I mean, you need practice to get that weight down. Because how embarrassing would it be if he goes to snap and it was like, damn it. Sorry, it's a new gauntlet. I've had like 2.
And coming in at the number 1 spot, we have Baby Groot. Oh my god, we saved the cutest for last. Baby Groot is the combination of one of the most wholesome dumb brutes in movies, getting a second chance at life, and the bigwigs over at Marvel being like, how do we make more money off of plushies? I mean, it's great. Who wouldn't want a Baby Groot in their home? But Groot was never crazy powerful. We weren't going to see him take down Ego single-handedly. But once he was in his little baby form, he was helpless at times. Like when all of those Marauders were being mean to him in Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. I hate that part. But even though this change nerfed his physical abilities, his personality was amazing because eventually we got to Teenage Groot, which I love so much. There's nothing like a moody adolescent plant to bring home some comedy gold.